y agradecemos mucho su participación. Y bueno, pues ahora le cedo la palabra a Esqui, quien nos va a dar un contexto de su modelo de flujos de carbono y cómo estas otras dos áreas de la tecnología LIDAR y la modelación del producto de cambio pueden incluirse en este esquema. Esqui.
Gracias. Thank you. Yesterday, Wayne Walker talked about connecting field data with LiDAR, and then Alessandro talked about going from the LiDAR to mapping with either MODIS data or Landsat data. If this was well, in the perfect world, I would follow on with their data and turn it into emissions of carbon or removals of carbon from the atmosphere, but in fact, either Wayne did not make use of the actual data from Mexico inventories. He used field data from around the tropics, and likewise, I'm not able at this point to calculate what we think the sources and sinks are for Mexico. I have not used, as you'll see in this presentation, the information I use comes from international statistics concerning Mexico, but I will get to that eventually. So, but the main point here is therefore not to pay so much attention to the numbers as to the general approach, the method of what we call the bookkeeping model. It's a model on the one hand. On the other hand, you could think of it as a framework just for entering the information you need to know to calculate emissions of carbon from changes in land use, from disturbance, and the removals of carbon from the atmosphere as forests will have. I'm going to do three things. I'm mostly going to concentrate on the approach, talking about how this model works, what the data that it requires are. But I'm going to put it in the context of how land management can be used either to drive climate change by adding emissions of carbon to the atmosphere or by removing carbon, helping to. So we're thinking in terms of both driving climate and solutions for climate change. Now, if we're serious about keeping the planet from warming 2 degrees or more, we are going to have to find negative emissions. We're going to have to find ways of taking carbon out of the atmosphere. So I'll have that perspective as I go through this talk. First, now this is just a repeat of what I've said. To what extent, the question is, can land management either drive climate change or help as a solution to it? We have to, as I just said, we have to go beyond red. We have to think about how to manage negative emissions on land. Okay. First, a little bit of history, just to make the point. The bookkeeping approach has been used for over 30 years. It's been the basis for a number of publications. It's used in IPCC assessments. The results are honest. It's a well understood and well used model. All right. So the approach, to what extent can we use land both to drive and perhaps to help solve climate change? The model results are interesting scientifically because it helps understand the global carbon budget, but it's also mostly very important in the policy perspective. It identifies what and where negative emissions could be. All right, the general approach that I'll go through is, first of all, talk about the kind of data that are needed to make the model run. And then, simplest way, just two types of data, two types of information. Number one, think of it as activity data. It's the annual rates of land use change and management. And it's hectares per year of, let's say, forest conversion to agriculture, or it's cubic meters of wood harvested per year. So those are the activity data required to drive the model. The second kind of information that's needed is something about the changes that go on a hectare of land that is managed, as I said, either converted or forest, remaining forest through some sort of management. What are the changes in terms of tons of carbon per hectare per year that follow a management practice? The sources of information we generally use and have used in this case include international statistics such as data from the FAO Stat, or from the Forest Resources Assessment. And those tell us about changes in land use, the area in forest, in agriculture, and the changes in those areas. We use maps just to help identify what kind of land is converted when it's converted to agriculture. So we make use of inventory analyses, and as I say, there's much more to be done from our point of view with respect to data from Mexico. And as we heard yesterday, we would use satellite data to get some rates of change, and also to get at the changes in carbon density. And it's just the bookkeeping model is greedy for data. The more data there are, the better. I haven't said it yet, but I should say that the model has not been used spatially, so it's not in a position at the moment to actually use the satellite data. Use it in a spatial sense. It has to be aggregated. It uses tabular data, but in the future we hope to make it spatial as well. All right, this is the heart of the bookkeeping model. We want to keep track of for all of those hectares that are somehow managed or disturbed. We want to know what the changes in biomass are, living and dead biomass above and below ground. When wood products are taken out of the forest, what's the fate of those wood products? If they're burned, they're released to the atmosphere immediately. Over time, they may decay if they're put into contaminated into pools that say last on average 10 years, like paper and pulp, or into pools of carbon that last maybe 100 years, such as timber. We want to keep track as well of what I call slash, that's coarse woody debris. It's that material that's left on the forest floor or on the area that's managed, as opposed to the products which are taken off and actually go somewhere else. And finally, some changes in land use affect the agriculture in soil. Cultivation, tilling of soil generally releases carbon. And what these four pools, what we've tried to demonstrate here is the ideal or a theoretical change in biomass. Here's the forest biomass of this land. When disturbance comes or when deforestation comes. This is a short interval of land being in agriculture, and then it's abandoned. And so forests go back. So here we have a big loss of carbon. Doesn't all necessarily go to the atmosphere. Some of that loss goes to the products. Some of it stays on the ground. And likewise, when agricultural abandonment begins at this period, biomass accumulates again on the site. Forest goes back, and in these positive slopes, carbon is removed from the atmosphere. Negative slopes are emissions of carbon to the atmosphere. And just as biomass changes with deforestation and reforestation, the same is true for soil carbon. If the deforestation involved tillage or cultivation. So once that agricultural land is abandoned, then some soil carbon will reaccumulate. As I say, this is the heart of the model. The model is, in a sense, very intuitive, easy, but it relies on creating a series of these curves for different types of forest and for different types of land use. So, I mean, as I say, the heart of it is in constructing these sorts of responses to disturbance or to management. So just to note, that time lags involved in decay of products and in the regrowth of the forest, meaning that the annual emissions are not equivalent to the gains and losses that we heard about yesterday. Those, again, gains and losses presumably occur over time, and especially the losses. Gains actually would be input for this model. And further, soils and wood products are something outside the above-ground biomass that may be changing and should be accounted for. We try to do that with this approach. Okay, so to say a little bit about the historical reconstructions before we get to settlement. What we try to do, and this is a list of the kinds of management, or let's say, the kinds of land use we consider. We want to look at changes in forest area, how that comes out of croplands, pasture lands, anything else that is a conversion of forest to something. We want to consider wood harvest, both industrial wood and fuel wood. Think about plantations, tree plantations, and then consider fire. And whether peat emissions are involved with fire, wildfires, or management. So those are the kinds of land uses we're trying to consider annually. Here's some examples, actually, from reconstructed for Mexico, from the FAO and other sources. And not to dwell on this very much, but this is from 1850 to 2015. There's been a general reduction in the area of forest, an increase in the area of pasture, and an increase in the area of crop. This blue line is other land. That means it's productive grasslands or unproductive drylands. Things are not any of these, not forest, pasture, or crop, anything else. And that's been declining too as agricultural lands decrease. And similarly, we try to reconstruct the history of fuel wood use, the black line, and industrial or timber. And so those are the data that the model depends on. Run the model itself, and then look at the output from a number of different perspectives. This again are the emissions of carbon from 1850 to 2000, annual emissions, and again, this is Mexico based on international statistics. The black line here is net emissions going from somewhat less than 5 teragrams of carbon. That's millions of metric tons to a peak in the 1990 or so to 20, and that net emissions have been coming down steadily since then. They're now somewhat, according to this analysis, around 5, somewhat like 5 million tons of carbon. So one way to look at the emissions you can see is to break it out by land use. But we can't read these. The most important one here is the conversion of forest to crop. Here's a period of history when there was increased pasture lands. Some of the other important ones here are, again, deforestation, something besides pasture. And one thing mentioned here is fuel is making this sort of contribution by these calculations. Fuel increases. Fuel emissions have been increasing. And I should say, for the fuel wood line, that net flux includes both the emissions from the burning of fuel wood, but it also includes the recovery of forests, taking up carbon after harvest. So it's a net from that land management. As I say, this is one way to look at the emissions in terms of land use.
Not working?
Not advancing.
Okay, I'm back. So.
Back to you.
Okay. Oh, now I see why. Give me 1 second. This internet asked me for a login, so that's why you lost the connection there. Mm, Because if not, okay, success. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Try
So
again.
say, this is looking at the emissions, removals of carbon from the point of view of land use. You can look at it also from the point of view of the major pools of carbon. The red line in this case is again the net annual emissions of carbon, peaking at about 20 and coming down steadily since then. But that net emission is made up
Oh, ya aquí me
of
quedo.
3 types of sources and 1 large sink. Not surprisingly, that sink is in forest recovering either from agricultural abandonment or from earlier harvests. So this shows a sink in forest of about 10 billion tons of carbon per year. Sources, major source seems to be from products, largely fuel wood, but there are emissions from soils and from burning of slash biomass left on the site. So that's a second way of breaking down the emissions of the sinks into components that are responsible. And a third way, I don't have the example here, but another way to do it would be if you were running this model state by state for Mexico, you could show the net emissions of carbon from different states, or the net, presumably net accumulations, if those are present. All right, let me say a little bit more about the uses of the model. I want to make a point that it can be applied at any scale from 1 hectare to project level to subnational to national to regional. It's just a question of the resolution of the data. And as I say, this has been run so far only from the point of view of tabular data, not particularly spatial. So I've talked about how the past, largely land use, has been a driver of greenhouse gas emissions. I'm going to say something about potential for the future. Now this is showing, the green line here, we've got the global emissions of carbon from land use change that started in 1850 to the present. And in comparison to fossil fuel emissions, which now land use change accounts for about 10% of total carbon emissions. Years ago, a century and a half ago or so, land use change accounted for about 90% of the emissions. We've run the model for 186 countries, accounting for most of the land area. I don't think I'll spend time on this, but the point is, at certain extremes, we have Indonesia with annual emissions currently of somewhere between 300 and 400 million tons a year. Compared to their fossil fuels, so something like 74% of the emissions from Indonesia are from land. The United States has a sink in forests, large emissions from fossil fuels, solar, fact, a negative fraction of the total emissions from land. And in comparison, the world, about 11%, 10 or 11% of the world's emissions of carbon come from changes in land use, land management. And so he described the historical profiles for any country or region. This is sort of the driver, part of the driver to climate change. We can also estimate what the potential is for taking carbon out of the atmosphere. And as I mentioned for Mexico, thinking of this, I think this is a global estimate of this growing sink of forest recovery from harvests or from agricultural use. So that represents an opportunity. That's a negative emissions carbon out of the atmosphere. All right, so just summarize it from the driver thinking about it. 10% of the net emissions globally. But that 10% value hides a much bigger gross source and gross sink that are in fact more helpful in thinking about management potential than that net funds. So the gross sources might be, instead of 10%, something like 30%. And likewise, that leaves pretty large potential for making use of the natural sinks. Okay. Just a quick view of several of the top emitters from land and how large land emissions play as much as 99% of the emissions from the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereas in something like Canada, land is only about a quarter of total emissions. Not to dwell on that much. The point is, and I said it before, we can calculate what the potential sinks are, what the actual sinks are, and what the potential is to use negative emissions in the future. I summarize and just make the point that looking is useful for calculating past and current emissions as well as sinks, calculating future potential sources and sinks, for MRV with an emphasis on reporting, and it's useful at any scale. I think the bookkeeping model is particularly attractive because it's intuitive. Once you understand the changes in carbon on the land, you use this just to make a bunch of calculations, and they're generally easy to interpret or explain. It's not a model that has processes that are buried. It's pretty transparent. So with that, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, I'd be happy to entertain questions.
Muchas gracias por la presentación. Está muy interesante el tema que se mostró. Al respecto, quiero consultarle cuáles son las diferencias de este modelo respecto al CBN. Sí, el modelo canadiense. ¿Cuál es la diferencia entre este modelo respecto al modelo canadiense, al Canadian Budget Model?
Let me try to answer that. I know some of the major difference as I see it has to do with what I've been calling the response curves. In other words, well, let me back up. I think the Canadian model wants to start with photosynthesis. Photosynthesis then drives where carbon accumulates in the forest. It's got much more of the natural, if you want to call it that, the natural system as opposed to just the management effects. So I think, as I understand it, the Canadian model will have in it a CO2 fertilization effect, climate change effect, nitrogen deposition, whereas this is looking just at the changes from management or disturbance. Another difference is that I think the Canadian model is driven largely by the age structure of the forest. So if you know the distribution of these age classes today, that lets you infer when disturbances have happened in the past, and that's a useful approach. Here we look more, we try to reconstruct more deliberately what those disturbances or management practices were in the past. And I don't know if that's not a complete answer by all means, but those are the differences that I'm aware of.
Basically, you could also say a little bit more about sort of the requirements of the model. I mean, what the Canadian model seems to actually need to make some very for what I think difficult assumptions. You need to know a lot in some ways. I mean, it makes it difficult to actually run.
Yeah, I know that the Canadian model is largely based on what, like I said, the age structure. You want to know that. If you know that, you can go a certain amount back in time to infer what has happened, and you can run it somewhat into the future. But eventually, you need another inventory to take you to the next step. And so you really what that model wants to have is sort of continuous inventories of ages and biomass of the forests. Emphasis on the forests. The same comes out of this approach, but the data that go into it have, as I say, more to do with what we know history of management. If you want to say it,
does the Canadian model include the history of the management? I mean, is there a way? Does it account for that? Or, I mean, yes, it does account through the age structure of the vegetation, I guess.
right, just in the sense that if you know you have a 50-year-old forest, you know that 50 years ago something happened to start it back from a disturbance or a management. And, obviously, the farther back in time you go, the less sure you can be of what it was or when it happened. You don't know. You know the last disturbance. That's the best you can do. You don't know what the history of that land had been before that last disturbance. Unless you have historical information on age classes, which I don't think we do. Alessandro, if you have another reason, something else to explain about the model, if you agree to.
No, thank you.
Gracias, Ski. Por lo que entendemos, los resultados que presentas para México provienen de un set de datos mundial, la FAO. Me gustaría mucho hacer un pequeño ejercicio con los colegas de CONAFOR, en el cual nos orientaras en función de qué datos son necesarios a nivel nacional para poder recalibrar estos resultados a nivel país. ¿Sería viable?
Oh yes. I mean, I think what you want to have are, as I said, the annual rates of, let's say, harvest, and what those products from the harvest are for. In other words, whether they're for fuel wood or something longer lasting. You want to know annual rates of either forest loss because they went to some kind of agriculture or was degraded to some extent. Let me go back to degraded because we can use this bookkeeping model to get at estimates of degradation. And I'm defining degradation as just a loss in the carbon stocks of the forest. In other words, I know foresters are unhappy with thinking that logging causes degradation, but if you define degradation as a reduction in carbon stocks, then one of the consequences of harvesting is to reduce those stocks, at least temporarily, until they go back. So if there are other processes that degrade forests, such as having cattle come into them, or besides gathering fuel wood, then we have not included those yet, but there's no reason we couldn't build that into the model. Is that, I mean, I think what I've described is sort of is the model as we've used it globally and in major regions, but I think there's no reason why in specific places where other activities are important, we couldn't build those into the model.
Muchísimas gracias por su presentación muy interesante. Y mi pregunta, o quizás mi inquietud un poco, es sobre la definición de bosques que contempla la FAO. Es ligeramente diferente a las definiciones asumidas por el IPCC. Por ejemplo, para la sostenibilidad, tomando en consideración las guías de buenas prácticas del IPCC, el bosque cultivado más agrícola no se considera como el sector forestal, por ejemplo. O el manglar también puede entrar o no dentro del bosque dependiendo de la definición. Esto podría cambiar un poco las cifras. Por lo que veo, aquí se le da mucha importancia a la reconversión de tierras agrícolas hacia plantaciones de forestales comerciales. Cosa que, bueno, ahorita como están las guías de buenas prácticas para el IPCC, esto queda totalmente excluido de las emisiones. Sería muy interesante hacer un ejercicio reformulando estas consideraciones para ver exactamente cómo se comporta el país.
No, that's a good point. I think of the bookkeeping model of, I consider it in the context of land use change. So it's not only forests, but one could go back to the same output and ask for only that which pertains particularly to forests, or let's say, you mentioned plantations, and it's always a big question for us. We can see from the statistics an increase in planted forests, but what we can't always tell is whether those plantations came out of forests. Was there deforestation followed by plantations? Or were they plantations put on something that had been forest only long ago and it was now open land? So those are the kinds of, I think, answers we can start to get when we look more spatially at the data. But I agree with you. Definitions used by different institutions are different. There's no reason I can see why we could not take the results from this and adjust them, meaning leave out those that don't apply to forests, or say include only those that do. We should be able to do that. We need some guidance as to which rules, which definitions you want to include, which ones to exclude. I should say, having said that, though, that we don't really consider the conversion of land to agriculture, and it's reversed. We don't really consider in the bookkeeping model the emissions from agriculture. In other words, emissions of methane or nitrous oxide as well as carbon dioxide. So that would go under an agricultural sector. In the land use sector, we do include conversion of something to agriculture, but only that process. Does that make sense?
¿Alguna otra pregunta, comentario?
So how do you see, I mean, could you sort of try to link what has been presented yesterday to the bookkeeping model and to the sort of the estimate of the fluxes and what the difference is between what we can derive from what we have now and what we have been working versus what in the future could actually be done through the bookkeeping model, and how eventually the two can help each other. What's the relation?
Yeah, let me do it this way. I mean, sort of the classic approach, which I describe, is first we go out and try to document, reconstruct land use. In other words, what happened in 1990 with forest area, with plantations and so on. Try to document the changes over time in land use, and then associate those changes with a certain amount of carbon. So you go back to those response curves, which tell us, okay, if a forest is converted to croplands, here's what happens to the carbon in the wood, and here's what happens in the soil. I'm thinking things get a little bit turned around when we have satellite data to drive the model. The model still calculates sources and sinks of carbon. That doesn't change, but think of the input now. The input, think of just think of think of the landscape. There are three things that can happen at any pixel. Either the satellite says that there's been a gain in carbon there, and that's sort of the answer. I mean, if you took all of the gains and you had a long enough period it could reconstruct, you would have rates of forest growth following different kinds of land use or in different kinds of forests. So the gains are exactly what you want out of the model on the one hand, but you could turn them into response times. You could have pixels that show no change, and presumably that's fine if there's not been any management or disturbance for a long time. They are in balance with respect to carbon. And finally, you can have losses. And I think when you observe the loss of some pixel, a loss in carbon, then it becomes important to try to identify, what was the agent that caused that loss? Was it fire? Was it harvest of wood, or was it conversion of the forest to something else? And so, in a way, it makes, well, those pixels that haven't changed are easy. You can leave those out. But the others are either gaining carbon because presumably forest is going back from something, or they are losses, and those are the ones we have to focus on just to try to identify what the agent was that caused it. But so those are somewhat different in terms of the use of data that drive it, but in the end, it's the same kind of calculation. Is that helpful?
So, just one last comment. So, in one way, in the future, what could happen is that, with coniform. So the INFIS data would be very important to refine and improve the maps, the
Yes.
the carbon change maps, so that they're going to be driven by country data. And then that result, the maps, could be used as input into the KP model, especially if we do a spatial KP model, so that each sort of pixel will be able to show a flux.
Yeah.
And so that would be sort of an integrated approach to both have sort of growth, losses, and gains, and then to go all the way to the fluxes and get closer and closer to a tier 3 sort of approach.
Yeah, let me,
One way.
yes, no, I agree. And let me put it one other way. If you're, I mean, one simple answer, the satellites that you guys talked about yesterday, from one perspective, that's what you want to know, the gains and the losses. But unfortunately, it does not account. In other words, but as I said, if you observe a loss, it doesn't mean it all into the atmosphere. And the thing this model helps do is spread that over time, and also bring in the soils and those components of the ecosystem that are not just above ground biomass. So those are the two pieces. It adds some temporal perspective to where the sources and things occur, and it brings in a couple of components that aren't obvious from satellite.
Este modelo sigue la lógica del enfoque del IPCC de pérdidas y ganancias, porque entiendo que el modelo canadiense tiene el mismo enfoque, ¿no? Identifica o cuantifica las emisiones asociadas a las diferentes posibles pérdidas y ganancias que pueda haber como parte de un ecosistema. Mencionó de que el IPCC lo considera, y mi pregunta es si es parte de este enfoque de pérdidas y ganancias.
I think so. I think that if you look at the IPCC guidelines, and in fact, the bookkeeping model precedes those guidelines, but they're generally consistent. I mean, tier 1 is easy, tier 2 requires more specific data for our country, and as far as I understand, tier 3 would be what one gets from using this model. And so I can't, I mean, maybe we can talk about it further, but I don't think I can help identify another difference between the Canadian model and ours. Because presumably the Canadian model also considers soils / coarse degree as well as living biomass. So I'm not sure. There is something else that's sort of right at the intersection of science and policy. When the scientists have been doing these calculations for a long time, we have what we call the anthropogenic, the direct management effect. And if you put that into the global carbon cycle, you know that there has to be a residual. There's another sink somewhere on land. And if we did the calculations for management right, this other sink is not attributable to management. So we're saying us because of CO2 fertilization, or it's because of changes in climate. So the countries went back to the IPCC and they said, okay, so how do we separate? How do we separate the management effects from the natural effects or indirect effects? And the scientists said, we don't know how. It's too hard. So what countries have done in response to that, as my understanding, is they've defined the areas that are managed and the areas that are not managed. Now, I don't have a good understanding of. I know that Canada and Russia have large areas of unmanaged forests. So they're not counting the sources and sinks, they're not being credited or debited. But as far as I know, most other countries, if you put out fires, that's managed land by definition. I think most countries most of the land in the countries are by definition managed. And so suddenly this distinction between managed and unmanaged sources and things goes away in a sense. And I'm not sure that response is what you were after, but I've thought more about that, and I think the approach countries just take of saying, okay, this land is managed, therefore you accumulate both the management effects and any kind of natural effects, which have, in a gross sense, globally, the natural effects are big sinks. We don't know exactly where those are and exactly why those are. Nevertheless, countries will get credit for those if they can demonstrate in their measurements of biomass or soil those accumulations of carbon.
Otra pregunta. En el caso de México, ahorita nosotros estamos desarrollando el Inventario Nacional de Gases de Efecto Invernadero con un enfoque Tier 2, utilizando pues la información del Inventario Nacional Forestal e información cartográfica local, bueno, del país. Que incluso esta última información cartográfica ya está orientada a cambios, que era algo que anteriormente no se hacía y que justo esta semana ya nos entregaron la serie 6, con una capa de cambios. Entonces, nosotros estamos siguiendo su enfoque Tier 2. Sin embargo, para el desarrollo de escenarios de mitigación, estamos buscando alternativas que nos permitan identificar las acciones técnicas y de política pública que sean necesarias para lograr las metas de reducción de emisiones hacia el año 2030. En ese sentido, en primera instancia, le quería preguntar si este modelo podría ser una herramienta útil para desarrollar escenarios de mitigación.
I do think it's useful in that respect. One of the things, I don't have a slide here to show it, but one of the things you could do, for example, is run the model to the present, and then just in the model stop something, let's say harvest, and then you can follow what that does to the calculated emissions. One of the things that I was a bit surprised at. I mean, I've argued that the annual gross sinks you can see in growing forests are a measure of how. In other words, if you eliminated the sources, those sinks would continue for a while as the forests grow back, and so you have the potential to have the lands become a much larger sink than they are. You can see the effects of turning off emissions. You still have the sources in the forest growing back. What I neglected to think of when I first was making that argument was that some of the sources, as you know, are not just from the fires, but they're from pools of carbon that have built up in buildings, in paper, and so on. And some of those will continue to decompose, burn, and so on. So this model gives you at least a tool for playing with how different sorts of management approaches would change the sources or sinks in the future.
Gracias por la presentación, buenos días. Yo tengo una duda acerca del modelo, que bueno, no sé si aplique específicamente al modelo, pero ¿qué efecto tiene o cómo se utiliza la diferencia de escalas? Pensando en tener un reporte a nivel nacional, nosotros tenemos información, por ejemplo, para definir las categorías de bosque con una cierta escala, pero información, por ejemplo, de manejo a otro nivel de escala. Entonces, ¿cómo se combina esa información en el modelo? ¿Qué consideraciones se toman cuando las fuentes de información que alimentan el modelo pues tienen estas diferencias? ¿Cómo tratarlas? Incluso información que no la tenemos a nivel nacional, solamente a nivel local, pero se requiere como parte del modelo, y qué hacer en esas zonas donde no tenemos información. ¿Cómo trataría esto el modelo?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a hard question. But you can imagine anyway that when we've done this analysis globally, there are lots of places we don't have on-ground information. So what we generally do, and this is, wow, it's not entirely satisfying, but we use information from where we do have it, and we'll say, okay, so this is what's happening under this sort of a management regime, then let's assume that it's also happening here where we don't know. And so you can, as you get more and more information, you have to do that less and less. But it's sort of, the approach is to make use of data elsewhere that looks similar, and so you make your best estimate. But you're right. Exactly. As you get to more and more spatial detail, you'll have to do that, I think, because some things just will be very difficult to have documented at a fine scale. It's easy to go the other way. I mean, it's sort of easy if you have fine grained, or if you have fine resolution, you can always lump that to aggregate that and run the modeling and aggregating. It's much harder to take aggregated data and make it more particular or more coarse. But that's why I look at the satellite mapping as being really, really helpful. Okay.
Bueno, viendo el tipo de insumos que requiere el sistema, creo que hay muchos avances que actualmente existen dentro de la CONAFOR. Hay mucha información que se ha generado y que podría alimentar con datos nacionales a este modelo. Entonces, creo que bueno, podría haber un interés importante por parte de la institución para poder, por un lado, conocer más al sistema y también identificar cuál es la mejor información que se podría proveer, pensando sobre todo en la parte de los escenarios de investigación, que es una de las cosas en las que hemos estado buscando avanzar. Entonces, y bueno, no sé, me atrevo a decir que si habría alguna posibilidad de algún taller de entrenamiento para conocer este sistema con más detalle y poderlo, por un lado, conocer la naturaleza, conocer cómo opera conceptualmente y también entender mejor el tipo de insumos que se requieren para poderlo alimentar.
Yeah. No, I'm certainly willing, there are others to do some more finely looking into the model, just sort of educational training workshops to get into the details. It's, no, we are willing to do that. I think it's important. You can, I mean, you get a sense of, I mean, for example, if the question is, what can we do with harvests to make them less emitting of carbon? And the answer is, you know intuitively that you can use the model to see how much better you have to be, let's say, in converting biomass to long-lasting wood products. It's not enough to, I mean, if you look at, I have little idea about Mexico, in most places, very little of the carbon in biomass makes it and lasts in long-term products. I mean, it could be less than 25%, it could be less than 15%, and there, right there is a possibility for what could changes in management to be more efficient at the harvest site, more efficient at the mill, and so on and so on. What could those effects have on reducing the emissions associated with harvests? That's just an example. We could explore with the model those sorts of questions.
Sí, por supuesto, Osvaldo. Creo que esta propuesta de tener este taller de intercambio es bastante pertinente y que este intercambio sea de dos vías. Por un lado, conocer las especificidades del modelo y por otro, presentar cuál es el detalle de la información a nivel país que se genera desde la CONAFOR para, en dado caso, adaptarlo y tener proyecciones que puedan aportar a los reportes nacionales.
Perdón, tengo una pregunta que quizás, no sé si tenga alguna posibilidad de respuesta dentro del modelo. Dentro de los insumos para México, en el caso tenemos como algunas variables difíciles de saber, como por ejemplo la tala ilegal. ¿Cómo han afrontado, o si lo han afrontado en otros países? ¿Cómo lo estimarían o cómo lo estudiarían? Porque realmente cuantificado, pues no son cifras seguras, porque no hay una contabilidad real. Pero si es posible, pregunto, pues, es solamente cómo manejan ese caso dentro del modelo.
No, thank you. With the non-spatial, with the model that I described that's non-spatial, we either just include what's reported to the FAO, or other times what we do is we will run the model, say, 3 times. One time with the official rates of harvest, and then we'll run it a second and a third time with alternative estimates. So somebody has estimated what the illegal logging is in some country, and we can put that in, and all we can pretty much do is say, here's the effect of that uncertainty. Here's the difference it makes to the calculated emissions. I think on the basis of what I saw yesterday with respect to satellites, you can go farther than that. You can presumably, at least I'm hopeful, what we should be able to do is match the losses the observed losses with the legal harvests and see if there is additional losses, see if there are additional losses. We might even be able to identify where the unreported or illegal logging is. But again, it's going to have to be with the spatial data on changes, gains, and losses. I'm hopeful.
Es más un comentario. Ya que nos comenta que el modelo se puede usar a cualquier escala, también nos podría apoyar en cuanto a la cuestión. Bueno, ya se han hecho algunos estudios en cuanto a la diferencia entre un incendio natural y las quemas prescritas, y cómo es la diferencia de la emisión de carbono que emiten a la atmósfera. Entonces, igual el modelo nos podría apoyar y también sustentar esa base del manejo de combustibles mediante quemas prescritas, para prevenir incendios de mayores magnitudes y que emiten mayor cantidad de carbono a la atmósfera.
Yeah. Not sure how to respond to that. I look forward to being able to run this model on the spatial data, because I mean, this model, as you add more and more kinds of forests, this model gets bulky, gets difficult. By the time you've added many forests, many types of forests, and have different response curves for each one, it really argues for going to the spatial version, which has in some ways a simpler setup. You don't have to keep track of so many different kinds. Instead, you're keeping track of pixels that you can identify on the landscape. And I think it'll make the accounting simpler.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Bueno, viendo los diferentes alcances que puede tener el sistema y en función también de lo que comenta la compañera, creo que este puede ser incluso un modelo que podría ser de apoyo para diferentes áreas dentro de la misma institución. Claro, tiene el reto de mejorar información, pero es una realidad de que se necesita ese tipo de herramientas para poder calcular emisiones. Ahorita recuerdo el caso de otro programa dentro de la CONAFOR que también no estaba representado ahorita dentro de la reunión, pero que hace un par de meses tenía un problema similar. Entonces, creo que este modelo puede ser de ayuda, pensando en los alcances, pero también conscientes de las limitantes de la escala de información, como lo comentó Rubí, para, bueno, en el mediano plazo buscar la manera de, aparte de implementarlo, de mejorar los insumos y ver, bueno, qué otro uso potencial podría tener. Bueno, pues